Saving seeds from tomatoes is a simple project and a great way to make sure that you can continue to grow your favorite varieties for seasons to come. So in this video, I'll show you how to do it. I love everything about tomatoes. I love growing them, I love eating them, and I love saving the seeds from them. Now that pertains to open pollinated or heirloom varieties because they come true to seed in the following season. So I'll get the same fruit just like I had in the previous years. But that is not true for modern hybrids. While they will produce new plants and fruit, they just won't be the same. So you can try it, but don't expect to get the same fruit. But you will with open pollinated heirlooms. And that's what all of these are. And all of these were harvested just today. But I save as many seeds as I can from the best of the bunch. And this one right here is a black creme, one of my all-time favorite varieties. This one is a little too ripe. It was left on the vine maybe a day or two too long. And so it's past its prime. So I'm going to just extract the seeds from these. When I'm looking for the fruit to take the seeds from, I want them to be fully mature and free of any disease. And this one certainly matches that. So I'm just going to cut into it. I'll get the seeds out. I'll show you how I do it, and then we'll go from there. Now, just cut into it, really. And there's no right or wrong way to get the seeds out. Just get all that you can. The seeds are located around the perimeter in this gelatinous material. So you could use a spoon or some tool for that, or you could just kind of stick your finger in there and force them out. And it's not hard to do. Most of that meat in the center is free of any seeds, so you don't need to spend any time there. And just get what you can, and it's surprisingly easy how they come out. And that gelatin material, that gelatinous material there, is what you're focusing on. And go ahead and get that too, and I'll tell you why you need to save that in just a second. But let me go ahead and get the rest of these seeds out in the meantime. So that's most of them. You could spend as much time as you want trying to get every last one, but there are a lot of seeds in this fruit. So that's good enough. And this will go into the compost pile. And I'll go ahead and get the seeds from the top too. And when we're eating off of a tomato for tomato sandwiches, I'll start saving the seed right then and there, and I'll make a label and I'll keep a little jar right next to the tomato and continue to add those seeds as we take slices from the tomato. That way I'm getting all of those good seeds. So that's that. And so now I'm going to scoop up these seeds into that jar. I've already added a label, and the label is really important because once you start saving a lot of seeds from different varieties, you can't keep them separated and they all look the same. So I've got my label in there that says black creme, and I even put the month and the year so that in future years I'll know when I collected these seeds, because the older a seed gets, the less viable it becomes. But tomato seeds are pretty forgiving for that. But the date is important. So let me just go ahead and use this tool that I got at the dollar store and add this to the jar. Now you'll notice that I'm also collecting some of that material that came out with the seeds, that gelatinous material or some of that flesh. That's important at this point. The reason for that is you want to let these seeds ferment in their own juice. So you don't want to add any water at this point. Fermentation is important for three reasons. First of all, it removes some of the seed inhibitors, so these seeds will have a better chance of sprouting next year. It also helps dissolve that gelatinous material that's coated around those seeds that causes them to stick together, so you don't want that. And then if there are potential diseases on or in the seeds, that fermentation can minimize the risk of that. So it's important for all those reasons. And so at this point, I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to set this somewhere in my house so that it stays relatively cool, 70 degrees or less, for 3 to 4 days, and just let that ferment in its own juices. And then I'll show you what to do next. Well, it's been 4 days and the seeds have been fermenting on the windowsill out of direct sun. And now the fun part, it's time to separate and clean up these seeds from everything else. So the process for that is to find a larger container like this pitcher here that is capable of holding 4 to 6 times as much water as I have in this container. And then we're just going to flush and purge until the viable seeds are at the bottom and everything else is gone and it's nice and clean. And we'll do that now and you'll see the process happen. So the first thing is to remove the lid, and because they've been fermenting, this is not the most pleasant smell, but it is what it is, and it's part of the process. Wow, a lot of seeds in there. Make sure I get all the seeds out. And I'm going to also fill this pitcher up with water, and that's going to help with the purge and separation. Okay, now I'll stir it around a little bit, and I can see the seeds moving around in there. And the viable seeds will sink to the bottom, and the ones that are not viable typically have air in them, and they're going to float to the top. So as you clean up this process and you dump out the water and all the debris that goes with it, if you see some of those seeds go out the top as well, don't worry about those because they probably were not viable anyway. So round one, here we go. I just pour this slowly, and the other reason I like the pitcher is I have a little more control over what leaves the area. So all that gelatinous material is leaving. So far, no seeds. And there we go. Now, as those good seeds start to get close to the spout, that's when I stop. Wow, that was really clean in one shot. But you do this a few times. You really want to get it nice and clean. So I'll stir as we go and repeat the process. Basically, it's that rinse and repeat process about 3 or 4 times. The viable seeds are sinking quickly to the bottom, so I can start to purge again. Okay, the seeds are nice and clean, and now it's time to just add those to a paper towel or napkin or something where they're going to sit for the next few days. I like to use a coffee filter because they don't break down when they're wet, and they're super easy to work with. And so that's been working really well for me. But I do one other step before I get there, and that is, and I have a small strainer, and I dump the remaining contents, that last little bit of water, in all those seeds. And there's a few remaining, so I'll do the same process, just add a little more water and dump those out quickly. That looks like all of them. Well, that's nice and clean. And so this is where I'll just dump them onto that coffee filter. And then I just disperse them evenly across the coffee filter as best that I can. And over the next few days, as this dries out at room temperature in a well-ventilated room, I'll continue to separate these seeds even more, and I'll do that a couple times each day. So the last step in the process to prepare them for long-term storage is to just move them into that container. But just over these past 7 days, they've been sitting in this coffee filter in a well-ventilated room at around 70 degrees. And the only thing I've done each day is to run my fingers through these seeds a couple times each day to help break them up. Recall that there's that gelatinous material that causes those seeds to kind of stick together. So the more that you can break those apart and store them that way, the easier it's going to be when you sow them into your seeding mix in following seasons. You can just do one seed at a time rather than a clump. So that's what you're doing there. And so now these are ready, and I have those little plastic jars that I've been saving. And one trick that I like to do is I order those silica gel packs just online. They're very inexpensive, but this removes some of the moisture that would be trapped in whatever you're storing them into, and that's good because it helps preserve the seeds. Now, you certainly don't need to freeze the seeds. Tomato seeds store well for a long time, even at room temperature, but if you can keep them cool and dry, that's your objective, and that's why these silica gel packs work so well. So I'll throw 1 or 2 into the container. I'll put that all-important tag in there with the name of the variety and the month and the year that I saved the seeds, because a few years from now, I'm not even going to know. And then in go those seeds, and that's all of them, and it's really that simple. I keep my seeds in a refrigerator, but again, room temperature is fine. Just a cool, dry place is all you need, and these seeds will be good to go for years to come.